Hi, everybody. Welcome or welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Sharifa, host of the Nubian Review, where we talk about books, sometimes politics, journaling, planning, lifestyle, and everything that comes off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But for the most part, book recommendations and book reviews. So this is I Am American series. I Am America series. I apologize. I Am America series, where I share with you the things that I call my America. In this part of this segment, or in this video, I am talking about books for Black History Month and the things that make us, all of us who are ever in America, Americans. And America has a very complex history, but America is also, or what we were seen as, the model for leadership around the world. But that's a whole nother video. We'll get into that on another day. But why I'm here today is to continue my I Am America series. I think this is my 8th video. So prior to this, I had a list of things that I wanted to share with you guys that makes America to me. The things that I the things that I experience on a day-to-day basis, or books I like to read, which identifies a lot of a lot of my understanding of who I am in this state of my life. Now, there are other books and other genres I love reading, especially horror. There's just something about horror that is so real to life, and dystopian fiction. It is so real to life that it is just undeniable. Those experiences were definitely complex human experiences and thoughts. But I don't want to ramble on. I want to share with you some books that have been floating around in my almost, I would say, I go through these books more often than not. So I know in the previous videos, if you watched them, I had an idea of the books that I want to share with you in reference to a certain thing. But in this one in particular, I just want to share with you, once again, cat here. I want to share with you books that I feel that can tell you a lot about my state of mind right now. And these are just books that I'm reading at the moment. I also have like journals and art pieces that I've worked on. And I hope at some point I get to share that with you guys. But for this video, let me reference the books. So, the first book I'm going to share with you, and I'm quite sure you've heard me rave about this person so many times. It is Amanda Gorman Poems, Call Us What We Carry. This young woman, she did the inaugural speech for former President Joe Biden at his inauguration. I want to say it was 2021. And she did this poem, and I have the book for it, but this is Amanda Gorman. And the reason why I chose to share this one is because, for one, I love poetry, I love short essays, and I love, if you all see a glitch in my video, I had to get my cat. It seems like every time I record, you have one child that's always misbehaving because for some reason they may feel like you won't stop and focus on them. Which is funny. I find it funny. It's just, that lets you know that your little furry family, they definitely know what they're doing. But let me get back to this book. So, um, her poem, her books were are on the ban list, and I just couldn't understand why they would want to ban poems about democracy and freedom. And that lets you know the state of the world we're in, where we're bending poems that talk about liberty, freedom, and justice. I'm just saying. And so I've been cruising through this book several times. I've actually copied one of her poems in my journal on democracy, which I'll be able to share a video with you guys in a couple of months. But her work is her poetry is so groundbreaking. I love listening to her author interviews where she talk about um, her experience in college and the racism and the misogyny she had to deal with at Harvard. This is just one of those things that I commend her work because out of everything, she could have led on the side of going to Harvard, for a corporate job, but she chose her artistry and her expression. And I am so grateful for that because now we are graced with um, her beautiful work. I recommend that, if you ever get any time, this is a great investment to have for your library. And I think she's coming out with another book. And more likely, I will have that book because I'm such a fan of hers. But yes, Amanda Gorman, Call Us What We Carry. Yeah, poems that I just love reading. I love reading this book. I love her poems. Another book that has been on my mind, and I have been, reading back and forth, I would say for about a year now, is James Baldwin, The Fighter Next Time. And this right here is a couple of essays James Baldwin wrote, um, particularly the one that he wrote to his nephew, and in which he talks about his experiences and he's sharing it, with the next generation. That was the one that really caught my eye. But then, James Baldwin, he is known for his deep thoughts in writing, and unfortunately, he did not get the credit he deserved while he was here. And so he has a list of books. I'm actually doing a James Baldwin challenge for myself to read all his books. I have no deadline of when their books need to be finished, but I do want to read all of them and be able to openly talk about them. And so here is the list of books. I would go over it with you, but if you want to do like a screen shoot, catch them. And so I have some of his books. I don't have all of his books, but I do want to take the time out and just read every book that he's written. And so, James Baldwin, this has been on my mind and on my shelf. Another book, and I'm quite sure if you've seen my other videos, you've heard me talk about this particular author and this particular book several times, and it's The Sum of Us: What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together by Heather McGhee. And this book right here, I'm actually taking notes because I want to do a book chat on this book. So not only am I preparing an outline for it, I'm also preparing, like discussion questions, because I feel like this is, at this point in time, with everything that's going on in our political realm, this is the one thing I want people to understand. When you try to disenfranchise one group, you hurt everybody. And so nothing says it loud and clear than white supremacy, than racism, than the current United States, what used to be called the Republican Party, right? So yeah, this book right here, and I feel like it's so necessary right now. And originally when I read it a couple of years ago, it just sat with me. And then I had to read it again. And I've read this book quite a few times. And everything that she talks about in this book, from how they collect data to the questions they allude to get to, to determine the needs of a certain group. And who's doing this, who's calculating this information, right? And I really do go deep on how people who are not part of the research in collecting this information should be, and they're not. But yes, to some of us, and this is one book that I feel like it will probably be on my nightstand for a long, long time. There are two more books, well, three more books that, three more books that I want to share in this particular discussion. And one is The Beauty in Breaking, Michelle Harper. This is a memoir. I absolutely love this book. This is a library copy, and I need to get my own copy. But this young lady, she talks about her journey through separating from her husband and navigating a system with predominantly white males, which is the medical industry. And she tells her story, beautifully written. I encourage you to get into more memoirs about personal experiences, because when we read about other people's experiences, we find so many similarities. And although I'm not a doctor, I'm not in the medical field, everything she wrote about, I can see myself, I can see myself in her shoes. Another book that has been unsurprisingly interesting and dear to me, it is The Skin I'm In by Sharon G. Flake. This is a beautiful quick read for anyone you have young. This reminds me of The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison. But in this particular, and I'm just going to give you a small segment because I really don't want to give any spoilers, and I want you to read the book. This young lady, she talks about, we're going to talk about colorism and how as she navigate the space of becoming a young woman of color, a black woman, the challenges that she had to deal with in terms of her looks, in terms of her skin tone, regardless of how smart this young lady was. I just feel like I resonated with this so much, because I can remember times in my life, even in the dating pool, how when people are partnering up, the boys, they will go for the lighter, the brighter. And that has a lot to do with lack of understanding and self-love. And I don't think it bothered me, but I would just, because I've never been the type of person who cared if a guy liked me or not. If we do, we jive. If we don't, we don't. But, for some people, that is a big deal. And she tells the story of her experience. And this is Sharon Flake. She did an excellent job at this. I encourage anyone who have young people in their life, particularly, and if you have young daughters, I highly encourage you. But if you have young people in your life, period, these discussions about colorism and racism, told in a fictitious manner, it brings and it sparks creativity and conversations that we didn't think that we can have if we just said, you know what, this is a nonfiction book. Because we tend to run away from things that say nonfiction, but the creative aspect of telling this story this is a story that is so relevant today, and unfortunately I feel like this will always be relevant. So, The Skin I'm In. And this author, and this is the only book I've read from this author, but she has quite a few other ones. After reading this, I'm interested in. And I think the next one I'm going to get is Who Am I Without Him? It just seemed like the title alone, it seems like an identity crisis for young people, but we'll see. Yeah, this is on my nightstand, and that's the book that has been floating around in my mind for a while. That I've been, I've read it a couple of times. I think this time I'm going to take some notes and have an actual discussion about the subject matter and allude to the book. Also, with that, bring in The Bluest Eyes, because there's a lot of similarities in both of those books. Another book that has been on my nightstand. Where did I put it? I actually had it and I put it down. Okay, here we go. And if you don't know, now you know. So this book right here, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I am actually working on putting together a class on American civil rights. And so there are several books that I am getting information from. However, this right here I think will be the primary book that I would like for a lot of people who attend these discussions, to read. And it is Parting the Waters, America in the King Years, 1954 to 1963. I've said this 100 times. I love this book. This is probably one of the sorry about that. This is probably one of the most relevant books I would say that talks about the civil rights in its entirety. Now, it started out with a young unknown Martin King, right? Because he wasn't a doctor yet. It started off with him, and it tells the story of the civil rights movement. I'm sorry, as it is told in the lens or in the spectrum of Dr. King's life and his involvement in it. Now, this is a one-part series. This is a three-part series. I'm sorry. This is a three-part series, and although the final volume ends with the assassination of King, you get to see basically a decade or so of how the civil rights movement, all its key players, all the policies and laws and how they organize. Very, I would say, in I would say, it was very intentional, very strategic. A lot of people lost their lives. A lot of people lost a lot of things. We're talking about jobs, home, family members. It intertwines so much of historical facts. And Taylor Branch done an excellent job in weaving this story together. Parting the Waters. I don't know how many times I can recommend this book to just anybody. I mean, to you guys. I think you will always see this book right here, along with a few others, key others, flash across my screen on a regular basis, because my area of understanding or interest is in the American Civil Rights Movement. This was a movement that transformed America, and we're not talking about just from the 50s and on. I'm talking about the entire struggle from Africans being taken from Africa and brought here to America. The stories and the survival and the ingenuity of these people who had nothing on foreign lands to build something so monumental. I just wish that we still had that spirit in the black community right now today, but we don't. And I feel like, and I'm always feeling like, we have let down a generation of our ancestors who have fought so hard for us to have these basic rights. And because we are not thought provoking, we don't care. When you're already born to have voting rights, or be able to go to schools that have been desegregated, right? We don't think about the struggle that those who came before us had to deal with, because we don't have to deal with them. So, yeah, I think I will always have this like at the cornerstone of my mind. This, along with a few other books about the civil rights movement, but this series in particular, I love it because it really do tell you an overall arching story of the civil rights movement, along with some other books. I think in the future I would do like a particular video on just the civil rights movement and the books I recommend for that. But I'm going to wind this video down. I do have one more book that I want to share with you guys. And it's not so much the book, it is the person. I met him and his spirit. I mean, he was just one of the most generous people, authors that I've met. Um, yeah, I mean, he just, I don't know. I love Michael Eric Dyson. Michael Eric Dyson, performing blackness in America, entertaining race. And this gem right here, which is not spoken about a lot, it talks about the complexity of how, as 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 Americans, how we entertain the thoughts of race and racist concepts. And actually, that book goes into a more scholarly academic vibe, although it's mainstream. It's a book for the mainstream. I will say this about Michael Eric Dyson. If you ever heard this man talk, he writes how he talks. And so you have to be in the right mind frame to actually grasp any of these concepts Michael Eric Dyson talks about. But I am such a fan of his work. I have a lot of his books. I don't have all of his books, but I do recommend him if you want to understand a scholarly hip hop academic twist on race relations in the United States. And so to say that I'm going to close this video, this was just a chatty one for me in my I Am America series. I think this is going to fall, I don't know where it's going to fall, but I do have a video on a controversial group of the Black Power movement. And so I collected a few books from that. And so I think in the end, when I close out will be my last video. I don't think I will have any book recs. I think it will just be a regular talk about you know, why this was important to me and all of that other stuff. So we'll see. We'll see. We may have a book or two. We'll see. But until then, you have a beautiful day wherever you're at, and hopefully I will see you soon. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Like, subscribe, share. I don't know which one, but if you do all three, I know that you'll be back to see me soon. Until then, bye fam.